I was about to say, just can't tell because I think they made it up. We live?
Yeah, we're live now.
Cool. Hello and welcome to the WWRL F1 2020-21 season championship. I'm Ben Norman, Mr. Norms. Along with my co-host for today is Matthew. We are here at Interlagos in Brazil at Sao Paulo, probably one of the most famous tracks in the F1 calendar. I am now going to literally hand it over to Matt. Matt, welcome. Take us through the track.
Thanks for having me again, guys. Interlagos has been the permanent home of the Brazilian Grand Prix since it returned to the schedule. That was in 1990. When it did return, it had been significantly shortened in length, almost half. It went from 5 miles to 2.7 miles, and the renovations cost about 15 million US dollars. So in 1990, that's an incredible amount of money. So basically, there used to be an extra loop that went off at turn 1, and it would rejoin the track at the Ferradura. Have I said that right?
Yeah,
Ferradura corner.
Yes.
The return to F1 in Sao Paulo was largely due to the superstar status of Senna at the time. Although it is known as Interlagos regularly, the track's actual name is Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace, named in honour of Carlos Pace, a Brazilian driver who won the track in 1975 and was later killed in a plane accident in 1977. And Ayrton Senna would go on to have turns 1 and 2 named for him, and they really are a standout feature of the track. Many different lines through there, and everything you do going through the first turn really affects how much pace you carry down that next straight. It's all about getting the power on early, making the corner as straight as possible, because you carry that all the way down the second straight. The first race winner at Interlagos was Emerson Fittipaldi, whose grandson is racing this weekend for Haas. Latest winner was Max Verstappen, and we all know, obviously, Brazil this track might not have long left on the calendar. A new track is planned as early as 2022, which would be a shame, obviously, to lose a track like this because it is a fan favourite.
It truly is a fan favourite. I mean, especially on bits of the track, you have a bit of history, especially of pure excitement, especially going into turns 1, 2, and 3. Obviously, that is iconic when it comes to the Brazilian Grand Prix, especially a couple of years ago. I mean, you're a Max Verstappen fan, and obviously a very, very sad day for him, unfortunately, for that Brazilian Grand Prix. Esteban Ocon getting in the way, unlapping himself, which he's very entitled to, and unfortunately got mixed up with Max Verstappen. But then after that turn, going on to that first DRS straight, you then got what happened last year between the two Ferraris, which is obviously what happened with Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc. I mean, I do like Charles Leclerc, but I think you and me can both agree. I think when it came to that race and what actually happened, I'm sorry, but I think Seb was completely in the wrong.
I think Seb was in the wrong. He did pretty much what he did in 2010 at Turkey to Mark Webber. And, just a little side note there, I quote angry Seb at least 3 times a day. So I won't do it now because I won't embarrass myself. But it is quite a quotable quote.
Oh, yeah.
And if you haven't heard it, go and watch the race highlights on the F1 YouTube channel. It's actually biblical how brilliant that is. I think he speaks German, goes back to German, and then he swears in Finnish at one point. I mean, that is talent right there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Part obviously what happened last year, of course, was once again Alex and Lewis coming back at each other.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, didn't do fantastically brilliant.
We're on another track like last week where the two have come together. I can see a theme appearing here.
And of course, let's face it, that I think the second to last corner. I think it's if I'm it was the track layout quite.
Yeah. So it's after the last proper braking zone when you're winding the power on. That's where Lewis got past Timo Glock in 2008 with the famous "Is that Glock" moment, and also, it's say last year we had a drag right to the end between Gasly and Hamilton, so there's plenty of room for overtakes here. Although this middle sector is twisty and turning, the track's wide enough to take different lines. So if you did want to get out of the dirty air, it is actually possible to do so. And I think that's something that separates this track here with a lot of the newer tracks in F1 where there's only one line, and that really hinders your overtaking.
Oh, hello. I think we've already got a...
We've already got a spinner, I think.
We've already had a spinner. We haven't even crossed the line yet. It is...
Is it the red one?
No, I believe it is the Williams.
KTID. Is he out of the session?
Imagine what's happening. I think he is out of the session.
That is...
I wonder what's actually happened here.
Sorry we missed that. Obviously, you can't anticipate these things. We are having to change the cameras ourselves here.
What actually happened? I can only imagine.
He must have,
right.
I think we must have been going through the centre S at the start, maybe got the power too early, kicked out, went skidding. These things happen, but that will be KTID starting at the back of the grid.
Sorry, I have literally just news on actually what happened. It so happens that due to the last race, he has a qualification ban.
Oh, okay. Well, there's something that we didn't know at the start, so he will start from the back of the grid. If we can just change down to Borish then, because Borish set pole position quite emphatically last time, and he is on a fast lap at the moment, so he's coming into this hairpin here, gets back on it itself. Now there's another long left-hand corner here, and then you go up the hill to where Lewis and Alex Albon had their crash here.
Well, looks things the benchmarks have already been set with a 1:07.5 by Desi, and that's already been taken by Sharky. Sharky's obviously a newcomer. I mean,
not a bad way to start, but let's see what Borish can do. He was absolutely dominant around Austria. Quite a similar track in terms of power as he gets as close to the pit entrance as he can. And he goes over the line. I believe that was his warm-up lap. It's either that or it was disallowed. We've got yellows in sector 1 and sector 2. Not too sure what's happened here.
I believe it may be...
Oh, Borish has gone off.
Yeah. I believe it may be just people slowing down, letting people come through.
People
so you do get that, unfortunately.
Shall we ride on board with Tempo Tesla? He had the race Crawley, in a way, stolen from him last week. He was dominating the race after an early incident between Borish and the other Ferrari. And I don't think the other Ferrari driver's in the lobby.
I believe not. I think he is I'm not turning up today.
He's not turning up, no problem. Obviously, Tempo went on to dominate a large proportion of the race before a late safety car came out. He didn't actually have time to pit under the safety car, and that played into a lot of the other drivers having the fresh rubber.
I mean, he still drove an absolute incredible race, Tempo Tesla, but unfortunately he was obviously not anticipating the safety cars coming out.
A lot of winning can come down to luck as he goes through the centre S there. He picks a very straight line there. You almost kind of carry your two right wheels around so you've got the left-hander, around the right-hander, you kind of go two wheels on the curve there to just straighten that line to turn 3, and then you hug turn 3 and take it out wide.
Well, the problem is though, with turn 2, obviously you say you have to obviously put both wheels on the curve, but the thing is, with these restrictions on the corner cutting,
it's minimal.
You have very, very little error there. If you have just a tiny bit off, that's it. You probably ruin your whole lap.
I'd say those two wheels are all you're going to get there around the centre S. There's any more than that, and laps will be deleted. But this is sim racing, and there's rules there. As you can see, Tempo takes that wide line through the left-hander there as you wind the power onto the pit straight. That is a definite esports line through there. You're making the track as wide as possible. He's hugging the inside here to shorten the distance as he sets his fastest lap by nearly 3/10 of a second.
That is absolutely fantastic. Seriously, 1 minute 6. To be honest, Matt, can you actually get the qualifications of what last year produced?
Yeah,
that'd be because that is something.
That's a very, very fast lap through there. So let's have a look at the qualifying results from last year's Brazilian Grand Prix. It's obviously Max Verstappen on pole, one of his very few pole positions. I remember it quite well. In Quali 3, his fastest lap was only 1 minute 7.5. I mean, 7.5 in this grid would put him just below Desi, just ahead of Eugene. So that's the pace that these guys are doing. Obviously, we don't know how accurate the track layout is compared to real life, but I mean, that's an impressive lap. It really is. Let's see. Have we got anyone else on an outlap? I believe Tim 88 is on an outlap, getting ready to wind the power on.
Look,
So
he goes across the line right now.
Talk us through the track then.
Right, going down the hill, turn 1, turn 2, and into turn 3, getting on that DRS zone. This, especially when in rain, you need to find that extra bit of grip. Sometimes being on the racing line, especially in a wet track, it does not do you favours, especially for the grip. You definitely saw that from Max Verstappen that 1 year where it was absolutely pouring it, and somehow he was just picking up the pace and getting past drivers left, right, and centre. Now this, I believe, is where, that is where Alex, unfortunately,
it's this next corner
this
coming
one?
up. Yeah, this just up the hill here.
Yes, so it was. I will apologise. It was this here where Alex unfortunately got knocked out of the Brazilian Grand Prix, sending him plumb last by Lewis Hamilton. And let's face it, we're watching the Red Bull. I mean,
go through the last corner here, and now it's just you won't need your brakes until turn 1 again, guys. Although the track does keep moving, you're never quite going in a straight line here. As you can see again, the racers. Oh, that's a really good improvement there to 1:07.6. You're seeing what they're doing here, going through the final corner, is they're shortening the distance by hugging the pit wall. Now, you wouldn't do that in a race because you're always setting up the next lap. But in 1 lap pace, it doesn't matter about the next lap. Get there as quick as you can, and that's why you'll see these, especially in esports, people hugging the wall. So who else have we got on an outlap?